quotes, either a curse word, F his wife, back to some more curse words, right?
Right.
So, you know, and how does, you know, Barack Obama's education? Ivy League, top law school, top position. Eminem, no schooling we know of. Parents, Barack Obama was raised by a mom and dad, then by his white grandparents in Hawaii. Eminem, 8 Mile, other side of the tracks, single mother, drug addict, multiple kids.
Right.
Which means welfare, right?
Right.
And then finally, you know, what profession does Barack Obama have? He's the president of the United States. Eminem, he's a rapper. So which one is black? The fact that you hesitate, right?
Right.
It's this thing called dissonance. I'm going to get to this. I'm going to break it all down, but it refers to what I call implicit bias. That's the problem, and that's what I see in our system. Because the only way to really understand black is to understand its historical meaning. It's not the color of your skin, walk, talk, it's none of that. What black means is best from literature, from the words that we read. I read 3 books a month, right? Been doing it since I was a high school kid.
Nice.
Black comes from literature. Black Death, Black Plague versus White Lie, White Christmas,
Right.
Great White Shark.
Right.
What does black mean? You and I understand, and everyone around this world understands the difference between good and evil. And we discriminate good from evil. You get good and evil. What I've just described to you about the possum was bad or evil. The bunny rabbit, we ascribe to it good characteristics. Eminem, what I described about him were negative things.
Right.
Even though he looked like a white, even though he's a Caucasian male.
Right.
What I described to you about Barack Obama were good things. Even though he's a black male.
This is true.
So when we look at black and white, what we're really talking about is good and evil. The reason why you're desensitized, my brother, to the deaths that happened is because you think that, and not just you, but we as a community, as a nation, believe that evil things deserve what happens to them. But there's nothing wrong with being black. There's nothing illegal about being a male. Nothing illegal about having a gun. But when you put together a black male with a gun, implicit bias means we fill in the blank about everything else. Right?
We do. I would say, though, only to play devil's advocate.
Please do.
Like, say, for instance, your story with the rabbit and the possum. Now, the rabbit, you know, might get in your garden and munch on your carrots.
Absolutely.
But the possum is going to knock the trash can over, and it's going to, you know, if the dog and the rabbit and the rat, hopefully the dog won't kill the rabbit, but that would be, you know, the most aggressive thing to happen. But if the dog and the possum and the rat, you know, the dog could get rabies, you know, a lot of terrible things.
And these are all things you're saying, right? But remember, I was in the country where there were no trash cans or dogs.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
But you're doing the same thing that folks have been doing about Keith Lamont Scott.
Okay.
He should have dropped the gun. Because if he hadn't dropped the gun, he would have been alive today. He didn't have to drop the gun if he did have a gun. There's nothing unlawful about having it.
Correct.
He never took an action that was aggressive or that threatened the life of the officers.
That is correct.
No officer ever said that. Nothing illegal about being black, having a gun, or being a male.
Correct.
That does not, or even having marijuana.
Right.
Whether he did or not. None of that justifies shooting him 3 times in his front, once in his back.
Correct. No,
what we've
true.
now called to be a homicide.
Right.
So he should have put the gun down. He should have listened. All lives matter. This matters. Say all you want. You can sit here and justify to me why you don't like possums.
Okay.
You can sit here and justify why you like rabbits. I get it. But that's not the point. The point is you think negative about possums.
Right, I do.
Automatically.
I do.
And there's a negative way we perceive black men to be. You and I are both black men.
Right.
You and I both know we put on a suit and tie, we walking around somewhere, we may not be judged as differently. Or we put on some sweatpants or whatever, a hoodie, we're getting stopped by the police. Just Friday, man. Just Friday, 2-3 days ago, I was driving to Vermont. I stopped by somewhere in Pennsylvania on my way up. Went to an Italian restaurant in Hazelnut, Pennsylvania. Went in, they refused to seat us.
Recently?
Friday, 3 days ago. So I went to the owner and said, hey, we need to sit down. Okay, sit here. Then they never came and took our order. We're there for 10, 15 minutes. These 2 old ladies come in, they run up to them, get them, seat them. Then the waitress looks at us, walks by us, and says, I'm not your waitress, but has anyone taken your drink order yet? I'm here to get that for you. then walks back by us looking at us and ignoring us. Like not looking at us but looked and like ignored us, right?
Wow.
I said to my wife, we're going, we're leaving. I'm not spending any money here if this is the thing that they provide. That was just recently. But I had on sweatpants and a Carolina Panthers jersey. Had I had on a suit, it would have been different. That's this implicit bias. That's this dissonance. So let me get back to Anderson Cooper's point, right?
Okay.
That's why I was singled out that night. It's because I had on a shirt and tie.
Right.
Had I had on sweatpants and a t-shirt or a hoodie, being the same college professor and lawyer, I would have still been part of the core. I would have been one of the evil things.
Right.
But because I stood out, it's this dissonance. That doesn't look like what we're used to.
Correct.
So who are you? What are you doing?
Right.
Right? And I didn't go out there with the intention of having a shirt and tie on. It was Wednesday. I had to go to work earlier that day, right?
Right.
There was a meeting over here in the park after work. After work, folks walked uptown. So I came to work with my suit and tie. I wear suits to work. Went to the park with others and then went uptown. Took off my jacket, that's all. So I was in my work gear. And I don't have a problem. I mean, I wear suit and ties every day.
Right.
So I'm used to it, right? I'm comfortable in it. But that dissonance, that this looks like something I'm not used to. This is changing the narrative. This is something I don't understand. So what is it? Who are you? We can run over rabbits and feel sorry for them. We can run over possums and feel like it was justified. But when you might have a possum carrying 6 or 7 bunnies,
right,
and you run over the possum and all those bunnies, you would feel bad for the possum because he was doing a good thing, right?
He may have been doing a good thing.
He may, so right? He still can't even get with it, right? but unfortunately, man, and I'm going to say I agree with you on possums. That's why I don't feel too bad about it. That's why it resonates with me.
Right.
But it's really the same way most of the world looks at people of color.
No, you're absolutely
right. To your question. That's why more people of color are in the justice system. Not because they've committed more crimes. Because statistically, I mean, white females commit more thefts than anybody else. Amount of drugs that are in the street. There are more drugs in the white part of town and uptown of all different types. And I'm talking about prescription drugs and heroin. But they're not the ones being arrested or prosecuted or stopped. I ask my white college students, how many of you have ever used drugs? Hands go up. How many have ever touched a woman inappropriately? Hands go up. How many have ever had alcohol and driven a car? Hands go up. How many have ever fought, cursed someone out, taken something? Every hand is up of 55 kids. I ask them this next. Well, what if the police from the hood patrolled college campuses? Right?
Right.
How many of you would have criminal records? It's a different type of policing. It's not the system that's corrupt. It's who we allow to be put into the system that's corrupt. But when everyone looks at black men and sees them as being dangerous, guilty, criminal, like you said earlier,
right,
we're desensitized to that. So we're least likely to stand up and say, this is wrong, let's do something about it. Wrong is wrong, man.
It's wrong.
But white people get stopped for committing crimes. Black people just get stopped. White parents tell their kids, be careful going out there, don't do anything dumb, and if you do, just give me a call when you get caught. Black parents just say, be careful.
Be careful.
We don't have to go out and do anything. White folks only encounter the system when they've done something wrong. Black folks encounter the system just walking around.
Right.
Period. I've had that experience too many times. No crime is ever committed. Can't tell you about the number of police encounters I've had with NYPD putting guns to my head. I'm walking in a white neighborhood.
Wow.
Neighborhood I live in.
Right.
What are you doing here? Get over there. Right? LAPD. I grew up in California. Being stopped by them multiple times. Whose car is this, kid? You can't afford this. You know? You stopped me for that?
Really?
Right? But the stories that we as black men have, this is not uncommon.
It's not at all. Not at all.
I wasn't stopped for committing any crimes. I wasn't harassed and guns and handcuffed because I was fighting and resisting the cops. It's the things they get a chance to do. And so, let me add one more point to something, I'll be quiet. as you recognize with Keith Lamont Scott, why did they come up with the fact that he had a protective order?
Right.
Why did they come up with the fact that his wife had said these things about him? Why are they doing all this character assassination?
Right.
Why are they saying all these things? Because we don't feel sorry for people like that.
Right.
It's almost like, okay, well, it was justified. Right?
Except it wasn't.
It wasn't. But there's two courts we have to remember. There's a court of law.
Right.
Which is this is not a justified shooting. But there's this court of public opinion.
Right.
And the community already has this implicit bias, meaning things we just all automatically think black people are bad. Because it's what it is. And then when we hear reinforcing stories that show that this black person is bad, then we almost all kind of say, okay, that desensitivity. He deserved it. Or it was coming his way. Or at least it didn't happen to me.
Right. No, you're very right. You are 100% right.
But we have to be careful, though, because then that means, wait, what has to happen in order for us to make a difference? Must I get shot before people realize we have a problem? Do you have to get shot holding your new baby born?
Right.
Before people realize we have a problem.
And we have a problem. We have a big problem. Now, another thing, I had some friends who were also there at the protest, and they maintain to this day that Justin Carr was shot with a rubber bullet from a police officer, and that there were other individuals who were injured in the immediate vicinity of him. And I wasn't there. That's a situation where I can't say, oh, I'm gung-ho on this side or I'm gung-ho on that side. Whenever that conversation comes up, it turns into like this conspiracy, like, oh, cover-ups and this and that. This may be very sensitive for somebody in your position. Is there any type of, in your opinion, legitimacy or accuracy in these supposed cover-ups and conspiracies that occur?
Sure. So I it's a good question, and I've been asked the question a couple of times. I wasn't there. I was still at the Marshall Park when that happened.
Okay.
I was shot by something during that night that hurt and it's shot in my hamstring that hurt like crap, and I still have a bruise, some muscle bruising, and I have a little knot in my leg from it. So it hurt like crap.
Right.
If that kind of shot, if I had been shot in the skull, in the bottom of my skull, in areas where it could have been damaging, I could see how it could kill someone.
Right.
Well, it does not make sense though that he was shot with a gun by another protester, because for two reasons, there would have been a whole lot of witnesses that saw him do that. And second, because if you remember, we all were together. We were all together.
Right.
Secondly, what happened, though, is if he had been shot by a gun, or with a gun, then anybody can tell you get shot with a gun, close range, or 100 feet, 25 feet, and they said that this other kid was standing next to him, it would have blown the front of his face off.
I was going to say, there would have been like an explosion of...
his brain would have been gone.
Yeah, of
22. I mean, there's some guns, smaller gun bullets that, will go in and out.
Right.
But for the most part, that's not the kind of stuff we're talking about, right?
Right.
No gun was recovered, no video showing that this happened.
Right.
And the police have video playing 24/7 that night.
Right.
There's video from all the buildings around. If it had been who they claim it to be, we would have all that video being shown. But here's the other thing.
Okay.
The only people shooting that night were the police.
Right.
They shot me, they shot others.
Okay.
And I was peacefully walking around.
Okay.
I wasn't even involved in them. I was, but I was peaceful. I wasn't even looking at the cops.
Right.
Right? And shot in the back, just like he was.
So why do you think that other guy would confess to doing that?
I've seen people confess to all kind of stuff, man. I mean, and the police are savvy enough to know who to pick on to get them to confess. You and I both know what young lady you can walk up to and get her in the bed tonight.
Okay.
There are people who are just weak-minded like that.
Okay.
People who can be easily led. There are some women you can't even get a conversation with.
Of course. Right?
So they're not doing and getting people to confess who are strong-willed, folks. This person is not someone who is unique to the system. But again, we're talking about this conspiracy and what folks may be relying on in this court of public opinion, and that can make sense. But again, I wasn't there, and I operate in a